Title and thumbnail should hint at it. Hi, my name is Morphsuit America. You might see me look over there to make sure my recording device is working and I see that the mic is working. But anyways, if you are not going for Guardian Soul, this video isn't for you. You don't need to watch the rest of this video. If you are on the fence about it, or you just want to see the process of it, or you are going for it, this will give you a lot of breakdowns and approaches to going for the GRAC ability. Guardian Soul, Veteran Resolve 5, Absolute Glare, and a Crack 5. Why those 4 abilities is because there's no pop item for them. Now, once again, if you played a waiting game, there might be some things that will change. However, I will make a separate video addressing that. For now, this is to dissect and tear this thing to shreds. I am going to talk about all these different approaches, explain why you would want to go for this one compared to this one, and other things. So here's the thing, this isn't like a video where you can easily just understand it all. There's a bunch of other videos you gotta watch so you understand how I go about this, the process to get grade 5s, or at least get to grade 4 of Veteran Resolve Crack. There's a bunch of videos talking about the Glare Catalyst, explaining how to do that, Mana Rev Factor, Astro Soul, all that stuff. Look in the description for those videos. This is not a beginner's video. This is not even intermediate stuff. This is more of, there's a lot of things you gotta fucking consider. Now, let me stress this even further, and I already hint at it. Even though I have all these different formulas, this is very fucking subjective, because I don't know what you guys are dealing with. I don't know what you have, and this kind of leads up to that video I released talking about budget builds, because I'm not a big fan of them. I get it. It is to illustrate a certain point, to kind of get people to, go for something that is cheap or manageable. But I don't know what your 10 mil is worth. I don't know the various things you are doing that are making it go to 10 mil. I can say some things that can allow you to decrease the cost even further. A budget is pretty much something that is, trying to save money. So if I'm gonna help you, then I would need to know a lot of things. But there's a lot of you guys, and I don't know what you guys are doing personally. This is why I keep on stressing the need to farm and doing other things. And with me making a budget video, no, I'm not gonna do that shit. I'm gonna make a video talking about why I don't make budget videos. But I'm not gonna be making a video specifically saying, oh yeah, this is a budget. I don't know what the fuck is a budget under your terms. So that's the same thing with this. Each one of these are gonna be annoying. Each one of these are you are personally going to get into this, and you have to think and you have to plan this out, because if you don't, you might spend a lot more than you need to. And that is kind of illustrated with my first video, or the 3 videos that kind of illustrate how I go about making Guardian Soul. That was on day 1, and I spent a bit more than I should have, because I didn't take into consideration of these things. I didn't really have stuff prepped out. But guess what? I decreased that cost by half of it. So instead of 300 mil, second unit piece, 150 mil. Last piece is even cheaper. But once again, you have to consider all these different things. You need to know if you need to farm these certain things. You need a bunch of them. You need to get a good chunk of text and all that. So many variables. So I'm going to explain each one of these different points. I'm going to be using Assistant and the simulator to demonstrate it. Now, obviously, one is going to have a bit of quirks and perks compared to the other. I will have a separate video going further into my thoughts about the Assistant and the simulator. I would have to say this: if you use Assistant and you aren't well versed in affixing, you need to be conscious of some of the things that will happen. Now, once again, I will have these links in the description. Let me talk about the GRAC, the Guardian Soul Crack 5, Guardian Soul Returner 5, Absolute Glare, and the Crack 5. This is what you're trying to go for. Yes, you can easily formulate this by using the, Assistant. If you use the simulator, you have to manually put this in. Now, this is where you got to be careful. The reason why I like the Assistant is just because of this, mostly. And if I am really lazy about it, I can use this orange button and just make it, just let this make a formula for a few seconds, a few minutes. But the big thing is, if you're not well versed in picking up on certain things, you might actually just, skip over it, and then you might actually spend a lot more than you need to. So what am I talking about? What am I getting at? Well, if I decide to toy around with this, now there might be a future video where I will redo my breakdown guide to using Affixing Assist. But let's say if I hit this orange button and then let's say I go for these options over here that look nice, or you know, whatever seems appealing to me. Let's say I go for all of these over here. Make sure that I tick or untick some of these things when not upslotting, and I hit confirm. Now this is the first mistake. You need to make sure you look at these Fodder pieces and toy around with them before you finalize it or go to this sort of screen. Actually, yeah, you need to look at this, because if you hit confirm again and you allow this, you can't really work with it. You can't move these abilities around. So on that screen that was previously, you want to stop and stare and see if you can do something. Because the big thing I can point out is that 3 of these might make me use a 4 slot. Because a Photonic Glare and a GRAC 4, it's not going to be at 100% even with a 15% boost or 40% boost. Yes, I could go higher, use a 45 or 50, but in all honesty, I would rather save that for my end goal, which is to try to increase the chances further over here. So just to prove it, let's say that what is it? Fix this thing over here, and let's say I try to make it naturally do this thing over here. So as you can see, when I do this breakdown, the percents aren't once again at 100. Ether factor can be at 100 though, but there's 2 abilities out of those 3 important abilities that aren't at 100%. Actually, excuse me. Yeah, 2. Did I say 3? 4. 2 out of those 4 abilities aren't at 100%. Photonic Glare and GRAC 4. You need those 2. You also need that Ether factor. And if I try to gamble with this, there's a chance that one of these could die, or both of them could die, because it's not at 100%. My rule of thumb is this. If it's not at 100%, you're fucking gambling. Doesn't matter if it's at 95%, doesn't matter if it's at 85%, 50, you're gambling. If you want to use a force out protect to make it count, then you want to make sure you do it to the extreme where it will count and it will not hurt you as much. Now, you might be saying, Morph, how does this hurt me if I'm using a force out protect? It's pretty much saving my Fodder pieces and stuff, right? The force out protects are not a guarantee, because they make sure you keep your Fodder pieces. So if you make this things, or if you had to manipulate some stuff to make it, it'll keep that. But the thing is, if it fails, then you're going to have to try to do this again. And that means you might need to use another 4 slot. And then what happens if it fails again? Well, you keep your stuff, but now you got to try to remake this thing again. And if you want to try to make sure you keep these Fodder pieces, you use another 4 slot. So you are going to stack up on those 4 slots, and it's going to and can be used against you. And that's going to increase the cost. So, here's the thing about 4 slots. These are easy for free-to-plays. These are easy for those who would want to try to go for something like this, or just have some insurance of some sort. Most of the times, the higher slot, the 5 slot, 6 slot, 7 slot, 8 slots are behind AC item support scratches, or just some scratches in general, and you could get some of these from the frequent bonus. I'll mention them again later, but the thing is, you can't easily buy these protections. What you can do is buy the stuff that you can convert so you can get a 4 slot protect. That one is the accessible one in the recycle shop. But here's the flip side. They cost 10 AC items. Now AC items can grow and decrease, and it depends on what it is. An AC recycle badge counts as well. But AC items like outfits and hairstyles, they can go up and down. So guess what? If the price for a recycle badge, or at least an AC item, if the minimal is at least 1 mil, then do 1 mil times 10. That is 10 million for at least one 4 slot protects. If we use my prefig example, I used like 3 of these 4 slot protects to try to get this to work. I just used up 30 mil right there, especially if you did not stock up on them and you do not have a lot of them. And in all honesty, do you want to use a 4 slot protect for each one of these Fodder pieces? I'm going to say this, and this is just my opinion. Obviously, if you did stock up on them, you bought a lot of them when they were cheap, and if you just have a shit ton of money and you don't mind doing and buying a bunch of stuff, then that's on you. But personally, for me, if I want to try to make this as cheap as possible, I want to avoid using as many 4 slots. But then that would mean I need to get these pieces somehow and get a lot of these. You could buy low. Hopefully you could try to buy low, but sometimes, especially during certain moments like a boost week, that might increase prices because supply and demand. Or I try to farm for this, but most of the time when I'm farming, maybe I don't get a good chunk of certain slot numbers or certain abilities that I need. Like, I can do a bunch of persona runs and I could get like at least 4 of the 5 abilities that I need, but I'm still missing one of them, like Elder Reverie. That was my issue over on the Japanese side when I first made this. I didn't have a lot of Elder Reverie, so that did kind of stack against me. But that's the thing. How are you going to tackle these sort of things? I don't know how you guys are going to tackle it. But my thing is this. This is also another rule of thumb of mine. If I'm going to use a Force Out Protect, I'm going to make sure that's the hardest thing that I'm going to try to combine. And if I'm going to have to use multiple ones, so be it. The goal is to try to get this finalized because I know that I do not want to try to mess with this thing by itself or with other couple things. So if I'm going to re-affix this, let's say we go to this again and we hit continue. Before I go any further, I want to stop and stare at this. So what I would want to do, I'm okay with the main fodder piece being as it is, fodder 1 and fodder 2. Once again, depending on how you feel about some of these things, you could leave it as it is, because maybe you're fine with using like a good chunk of Force Out Protect for fodder 3, 4, and 5. Note that if you try to do this for all your units, you're going to have to multiply stuff. But let's say I'm willing to do something like this, where I shove a good chunk of abilities for fodder 3 and 5. So if I do something like that, you can see that, okay, now I just saved a good chunk of Force Outs, maybe. Note that, once again, when you use a Force Out and you try to gamble to make said pieces, it is a gamble and it is not 100% foolproof. You are going to use up that Force Out, but there's still a chance that it might be finalized and made as it is. So if I fix this quickly, let's say Photonic Glare, we do that method, Crack 4, do this method. What I could also do on this one, if I want to try to combine Artifact and Astral Soul, and if I did farm a good chunk of them, I could try to use Receptors for this, and you do have a Force Out Receptor to try to do this. Now, I do need to make sure that the Receptors are on one piece. Actually, no, let me go back. I decided to choose that one. Let's do that one. What I would need to do, especially for global standards, is make sure they're both together. This automatically eats up one of your fodder slots. But everything else, you can see you could do something like that. And I would say this isn't as bad. I could, but no, I can't move that glare into something else. So I have to leave it on the Ether or the Astral Soul. Depends on what you have a lot of, and this is why you would want to farm a lot of stuff. So I would do something like that. And then I will make those said pieces. That's not as bad if you try to do the breakdown for it. Once again, Assistant can easily do that for you. So if I do this and make sure that I choose the right things so I can go to that approach, I would recommend the crack 2 into the crack 3 method. It's going to do something like that. I stare at that. You see it kind of points at that. If I wait for a boost week, use a 40%, then it's going to get all of that to 100. You're going to need a lot of X cubes, just FYI as well. But yeah, when I go over here, then I'm going to have to try to use a Force Out and gamble with these percentages. Once again, if it's not at 100%, I might as well fucking gamble. And if I'm using a 40% Force Out Protect, I'm going to gamble hard. So I'm going to do something like this. But once again, this is your formula. You're going to have to try to figure it out depending on what you have. So that is pretty much this Formula 1 over here. You're going to have to toy around with it if you want to. You can use Assistant alongside to try to figure it out. Like, do easy breakdowns like how I did it. But yeah, that is this Formula 1. Now, Formula 2 is the same thing. You need to toy around with it to figure out what sort of approach you want. You could technically use 4 slot fodder in this, even though this is at a 3 slot. So this is just emphasizing on 3 slot or 4 slot. You would want to work with a 3 slot or a 4 slot. Depends on what you have a lot of. So guess what? This is mostly if you have a lot of 4 slots, or if you are going to push it at a 4 slot and make sure that it stays at a 4 slot. This one is if you have a bunch of 3 slots, maybe a couple 4 slots, and then you will want to try to upslot and get this 4 slot. That is fine as well. Yes, the percentages are different, but once again, rule of thumb, if it's not at 100, you might as well fucking gamble. You're using a Protect at the very least to try to get all these abilities. So yeah. You can work with, once again, 3 slots, or you can work with 4 slots. If you go for 4 slots, you could try to manipulate stuff like how you did it with the The first formula just depends on how you want to do it. Now, we're going to go into panel 3 and 6. Let me make sure. Yeah, 3 and 6. Now, 3 and 6 will start to use receptors for this. And once again, you will go in for that in formula, which is Guardian Soul, Absolute Glare, Crack 5, Venom Resolve 5. The thing is, I would stress and recommend the 6th panel more than the 3rd one. Because, well, either way, you might need to use a good chunk of stuff here and there. It just depends on your taste. But the reason why the reason why I recommend this 6th panel is because it's showing a Guardian Soul with a Veteran Resolve and a Crack 4 and a Glare Catalyst. It has a lot of annoying stuff already on it. And this will free up a lot of your other pieces, because guess what? You're not going to use the Foresight Protect to try to gamble with just a Glare Catalyst by itself, or like a Glare Catalyst with a Crack 4. You could move some of these pieces, like this one over here. Instead of having like a Veteran Resolve 4 Glare Catalyst with a Crack 4, you could do something like that instead, where it's like a Crack 4 is over here. And before I take this one out over here, I'll do that. So depends on how you view it. It depends on how easy you want this to look and be. I think the only problem with this is that I just realized I don't think... No, Photonic Glare is somewhere around here. Where are you? You're with this thing over here. So yeah, it's something like this where once again you can go for that certain thing. And then panel 3 illustrates that as well, but instead of a 4-slot, it's a 3-slot. So you don't actually have a bunch of... For this panel, you don't see a Crack 4 over here. You see Veteran Resolve 4 and a Glare Catalyst, but you don't see a Crack 4. You can swap it around, have a Veteran Resolve 4 and a Crack 4, but you're not going to have a Glare Catalyst. You can have a Glare Catalyst with a Crack 4, but you're not going to have Veteran Resolve 4. You're going to have to shove that somewhere over here. Once again, you can manipulate it how you see fit. But let's talk about this thing. So to even get to this, you would need to, once again, break that down, figure that out yourself. With the simulator, here it is over here. Now, with a 50%, 40%, you can see that going from a 3-slot to a 4-slot, it's going to be 62, 76, 76, 62. And to make some of these pieces, it's going to be how it is. Now, making these, it's not bad, because as long as you have a good chunk of XQs and a good chunk of 40%, and you know what you're doing, and you wait for a boost week, all this can be at 100%. But the question is, once again, do you have all those resources? But I will make sure that this is the hardest one to go for, so I don't need to use a good chunk of Foresight Protects later down the line. Yes, I would need to have a bunch of materials to try to go for a grade 4 of a Photonic Glare, grade 4 of a Glare Catalyst, but yeah, I might as well gamble and risk it, and once again, do it on a boost week. So that is 3 and 6. Now let me talk about the panel 5. Panel 5 is if you already have some of these pieces, or at least one of these pieces with a couple other things. Back then, some people showed me pictures of what Astro Soul and a Veteran Resolve 5. Now, you can use this to your advantage, and this is where I talked about grade 5s as well. In all honesty, you don't want to try to go for a grade 5. The only reason why you want to go for a grade 5 is because you already have one and you are using it in your formula. You want to work a formula around that. So in this case, in panel 5, let's say I have Astro Soul with a Veteran Resolve 5 already. Guess what? To get this to at least transfer, I would need another Veteran Resolve 5 somewhere in my formula. Not only that, if I'm trying to get a Crack, I might as well go for a Crack 5 as well. You could technically go for a Crack 4, but I would say if I'm already going for a grade 5, might as well go for a grade 5. And as you can see, this kind of frees up a lot of space. Because, once again, like I'm trying to push for a grade 5. Now, the thing is, I'll most likely use a couple Foresights and make something really difficult like this thing over here with a Glare Catalyst, with a Crack 5, and a Veteran Resolve 5. And then one of them might be the same thing, but it's not going to have a Veteran Resolve 5. It's just going to have a Crack 5, Glare Catalyst, and a Photonic Glare. I think I did this method for my second unit piece, since I had a Crack 5 along with my Astro Soul, Ether Factor, Mana Rev. But yeah, I'm going to do something like this. You can see, once again, you might want to move stuff around, so it might be a bit easier. Just depends on how many resources you have, how much resources you have. And I think I have an affixing formula over here that talks about a certain approach. I think it's this one. Glare catalyst returner crack 4 in that. So it's referring to actually no, it's not that one. What is this one for? Don't know what this one's for, but let me do a quick link and break that down. Break some of it down. What is this? Foresight? What I'm looking at is this one. Glare cat with hive. Alright, click on this, delete that, have a junk. So you have something like this, you try to fix this, you do this method over here, you do this, hit yes, and then when it comes to you getting this thing, you do have to be aware that you're trying to go for a grade 4, so you are gambling in a sense. The big thing is I would pay attention to which glare is actually easy or which fodder piece to actually do, so let me refix that. So instead of hitting that final button, what I would want to do is most likely do something like this maybe. Move this over here instead, or move that there. Could have an Angie there, but I might want to do something like that. And then when it comes to doing something like this, you would need to gamble a bit. Now, this is where it might eat up a lot of your grade 3s and a lot of your returner and crack abilities. This is a con to trying to go for grade 5. But once again, this is ultimately up to you. If you only have one grade 5, you could stick with the grade 5 and then work with grade 4s instead. You just have to figure out what approach you would like. What would appease you? No, not ideal. So this thing, yeah, it should have done something like this instead. So 3 return to 3s, 4 slot, 3 crack 3s, 4 slots. And then when it comes to you getting to here, you're getting if you wait for a boost peak, you use at least a 40% on that. It's 85, 85. But yeah, you need a good chunk of these. And then you would need to do some of that with some of these glares as well. Once again, if there's one glare that is annoying as fuck to try to farm for and get a good chunk of, then you get the one that is actually accessible easy. So you do something like that, which leads up to, what is it? This thing over here, Veteran Resolve with the Glare Catalyst and Crack 5. So, that is pretty much it when it comes to the free-to-play methods, or at least accessible methods, especially if you don't have foresights and you're not buying or using, but yeah, you're not buying them from the AC Scratch, or you're not getting them as bonus items from the AC Scratches. So you got panel 1 and 2 pretty much the same. It's just that this is the main thing that a lot of people will go for. You just need to manipulate it in a way that's not going to hurt you as much. Second one, pretty much 3-slot one. What is it? Panel 3 and 6. This is a reference to using Receptor and Guardian Soul and making a finalized Guardian Soul. Now, I would stress the 6th panel with the Guardian Soul at a 4-slot. Because, once again, you're getting rid of a bunch of abilities right off the get-go by having them together with that Guardian Soul. 5th method is in reference to you already having a piece in the game and working around that. And you considering using a grade 5. Once again, since I didn't have a crack 5 in this original piece, I could work with grade 4s instead of a 5 if I don't really want to, you know, test my luck, push my luck, RNG. And that is pretty much it, but there's one more that I will recommend and talk about. And this is for those who have higher slot protections. 5 slot, 6 slot, 7 slot, 8 slot. Because this is pretty much you going from a 4 slot to a 5 slot and adding an Ethifactor into this. Why Ethifactor over Mana Rev? Is because you guys don't, over there in Global especially, you guys don't have Reverie Receptors. Over on the Japanese PSO2, especially from PSO2 ES, they can drop Reverie Receptors, and these things can also drop with a Soul Receptor as well. They are a bit pricey, but there is a way to get a 5-slot Soul Receptor with a Reverie Receptor. And, well, 4-slot, I think, 5-slot higher, something like that. But guess what? If that's the combination, then I would recommend a Mana Rev more than a Ethifactor then. But for this demonstration and in reference to global, it's going to be Guardian Soul, Ethifactor, Venom Resolve 4, and a Crack 4. Why this? Because you could try to push it and try to go for a 5 slot and also keep that Ethifactor. Now what you would need to do in its prior stage is most likely keep that Ethifactor that you already have before you make that, or while you make that Guardian Soul. So do I have a formula that breaks that down? I think oh wait, is this? No. Actually, no. The best one to get would be this thing over here. Let me get that link. And put it over here. Let me work with this. Let me delete the glare. And then let me put... Now, why something like this? Well, because you would want to just use those protects. As of this recording, you could not sell those 5 slot, 6 slot, 7 slot, 8 slot protects. They can only be, once again, through that bonus or you pulling it from a certain scratch. And if I want to save resources as well, this wouldn't be a bad option, especially if I were to, what is it? If I want to try to save a good chunk of metal badges, and not only that, special ability transfer passes, this would be a good alternative. What I would need to do, though, is at least try to dumb this down a bit. What I would actually do is just shove these over here instead and wait for a boost week. So I would have something like this. Bit manageable. I could try to combine all of them together if I want to, but no, I'll keep it like that. So if I have something like that, have a 4 slot protect, a boost week 15, use at least a 40, or if I want to push it a 50, then I can get these percentages. Once I make something like this, this can be used for this sort of process over here. Obviously one of these fodder slots are going to be taken up by the Soul Receptor Factor Receptor again. It is 500 Rising Badge 5 500 Rising Badge 5 currencies, but like, yeah, everything else can be a bit easier. I would need to kind of manipulate this a bit. I would just actually I would have moved that over there instead, and then actually no, sometimes, yeah, if I'm already doing something really hard, I might want to try to put them all together again. So what I would need to do for here is put that over there. Because, yeah, that's already at a low percent, unless... Yeah, like, if... What was it earlier? I didn't have a crack 4 in there. Like, even with the Glare Cap, Fatana Glare, and the Veteran Resolve 4, if it's not at 100, once again, I might as well use the Protect. Especially if I don't have a lot of these. Now, if you do have a lot of it, different story. Could try to dumb this one down, move that crack 4 over here instead, so it just, you know... It seems a bit easier. I don't need to try to gamble all these at the same time. At least I can do this where it's like, okay, Veteran Resolve might be able to work because it is past the 50% mark. And then the Glare Catalyst, obviously with a boost weekend at 30%, it's only going to be at roughly around like, what, 50? So it's a hit or miss. I could use a 40 if I want to, but it just depends on how you view it. But yes, you could do this alternative. So instead of going for the GRAC ability, you can go for Guardian Soul, Absolute Glare, Ethifactor, Veteran Resolve 5, and a Crack 5. But this is if you have higher protects. And yeah, that is it for this video. Pretty much this formula is actually the one that I use for my third Guardian Soul unit piece. But once again, you can find all this stuff in the description. There's going to be a lot of links. If you want my personal advice when it comes to you trying to do this, you're going to need to DM me, talk to me, or if you want to, you can join the Discord and talk around, see if someone's willing to give their 2 cents as well. But yeah, long ass video dissecting this because, once again, there's so many ways to go about it. It's just that which one is going to appeal to you, which one is not going to hurt you as much. In all honesty, as well, this thing is going to hurt you because it's just... you know, a lot of work and a lot of planning. If you're not a big fan of that, and if you don't really pay attention to what is going on, it's gonna eat up some Meseta. I mean, there's a couple stuff that had already happened. But yeah, so that is it. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.